Okay, let's now go ahead and start implementing paginations. And there are multiple ways to do this. And we could use any third-party packages to implement paginations, but still I wanted to implement this ourselves from scratch. And the reason to implement this ourselves is we might learn a thing or two while implementing this from scratch. So yeah, we'll be implementing the whole flow, and these will be server driven paginations. And by that I mean to say that whenever we fetch any data, that is, let's say from page 1 to page 2, when we try to fetch the data, they will be fetched from the server. And yeah, there's two ways of pagination. One is client side, where all the data is loaded at once and the pagination is performed on the client side. And there's server side paginations as well, where the server will limit the data accordingly and upon request will further pass additional data, that is the paginated data. So yeah, we'll be implementing the server side pagination, which is actually a preferred way to paginate because it is more performant, and yeah, it's more memory efficient as well because we don't have to load all the data on the client side. So yeah, let's go ahead and start working on this. So instead of loading all the data in here, let's go ahead and start paginating on our backend first. And by default, 15 records are loaded in each pagination. So yeah, let's go ahead and pass 10 records because we want to load 10 records on each pagination. And now if we go ahead and reload, then as you can see, only 10 records are loaded initially. And when we navigate to another page, let's say if I navigate to page number 2, then the data from 11 to 20 will be rendered here. So yeah, this is the server side pagination, and we now need a few links over here where the user can click on those links, and then we will be using inertia to fetch those data and update our table accordingly. So yeah, let's go ahead and start working on this. So here we'll be defining a new component called pagination. So yeah, let's go ahead and start working on that. So inside components, I'll define a new Vue component called pagination, and I've already worked on the design. So I'll just go ahead and paste the design. And to grab the design, what I did was I just looked into the underlying implementation of the Laravel's pagination, and I looked into the Tailwind version because we are using the Tailwind stack here. And I just removed the PHP variables and the dynamic stuff from there, and I just have the HTML code with the Tailwind styling applied. And once I go ahead and paste that HTML code, we will then go ahead and start implementing this in Inertia and vue.js. So yeah, let's go ahead and paste it, and then we will start working on this. Okay, so this is the design of our pagination component, and here we are just displaying some dummy placeholder data. That is the range of the data and the total results. And here we have the buttons, which are actually clickable buttons as links, and when they click on it, then we will programmatically navigate the user to that specific page. And yeah, let's now go ahead and render this on our index page. So here, instead of this links div, I'll just go ahead and replace that with the pagination. So let's pass that, and let's also go ahead and import that from the components pagination.vue namespace. And if we go ahead and reload, okay, as you can see, we have this data being rendered here. And one more thing that I want to mention here is, let's open up the pagination.vue. Then as you can see, we are conditionally applying some classes in here. So we want to apply these classes if the current page is active, and we will be applying these classes if it is not active. So I will be updating this later, but for now I've just passed these Boolean values. So yeah, just wanted to give you an idea about that. And let's now go ahead and start working on this. So on our index.vue, we are receiving this student's prop. So let's go ahead and log this data because there's some pagination related data as well on this student's prop. And we can do that by calling usepage dot props dot students. So let's go ahead and pass that. And okay, this is giving an error now, and we need to import that. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, let's try to import that from here using VS Code, and let's go ahead and open up the dev tool. Let's open up our console, and use page is not defined. Okay, so here we have this proxy, which is an object, and let's open up the, okay, let's try to open the target. And here, as you can see, we have the data that we are currently rendering in here. So these students data are currently rendered, and along with that, we also have the links data, as you can see. So we have the first, the last, the next, and the previous. And the main pagination related data is on this meta object. As you can see, if we go ahead and fold it, then as you can see, we have the current page data, we have the range from which the data is being rendered, that is from 11 to 20, and we also have the total data, as you can see, and we also have links in here. So all the links that we can navigate for performing the pagination are inside this links object. And yeah, we can just use this meta object to basically perform the pagination. So yeah, let's go ahead and make use of this meta object and start displaying the links. And we can also display the range and all the active and inactive states accordingly. So yeah, let's go ahead and start doing that. So on our pagination.view, what we can do here is we can pass the students data to our pagination component. And okay, let's navigate to that. So pagination, let's pass the data in here. So we'll name the prop as data, and we'll pass the students data. And currently, if we pass it like this, then the string value of students will be passed. So if you want to interpret this properly, we'll just pass the semicolon, and now this will be passed as a dynamic value, and we can receive that on our pagination component. So let's go ahead and define this script tag, and let's pass the setup, and here let's define the props, and we want to receive the data in here. So the data is going to be of type object, and it is required, so I will pass that as well. And now what we can do here is let's go ahead and use the page again and display the meta related data in here. So use page.props.data.meta, and let's wrap this inside the log, that is the console.log, and let's get rid of the console.log from here because we only want to log the pagination related data. Okay, we should wrap this inside the parentheses, and okay, let's go ahead and give this a try now. So let's reload, and cannot read properties of undefined reading meta. So use page dot props dot data, let's try to look into that, and that is undefined. So what did we do? On our index, we are passing the data. Okay, we need to pass the students dot data because our data is wrapped inside this data key, and if we go ahead and reload, that is still undefined. So let's navigate to the index page just to make sure that we don't face any errors. And on our pagination, we are defining the props of data, which is of type object, and that is required. Okay, I just went ahead and logged the data in here instead of doing that over here because there could be some asynchronous tasks running behind the scenes where the data might not be ready at this point. And yeah, I just went ahead and logged that over here. And now this is working. So we are defining this prop with the name of data, which is a type of object and is also required. And then on our index.view, we are passing that data from our students.data collection object. And yeah, this is now working, and we can now use this data to display the pagination links. So yeah, this is the output, and we are dumping that over in here on our pagination.vue. So let's go ahead and remove that, and I'll just remove this commented code as well. And here we can use the data.meta object to display this data. So here we have the data.meta, and we can use the to key to display the starting range. And if we go ahead and reload, okay, we have an error, undefined reading 2. So okay, let's try to dump this again, because data.meta, let's see what the output is. Instead of data.meta, let's just go ahead and pass data. Okay, actually I made a really silly mistake. So instead of data, it should be just students. And if we go ahead and reload, and now we have the pagination links. So yeah, this is a really silly mistake. And now we can display that data in here. So this should be data.meta.to. And okay, now we have 10. Okay, the first key should be from. So let's replace that with from, and this should be actually to. So data.meta.to. And if we reload, then as you can see, this is a dynamic value now. And if we navigate to page 2 and reload, then as you can see, the data has been reflected accordingly. And for the total, we can use the same pattern. So data.meta.total, and here we have these buttons. So what we can do here is we can loop over this button to display all the links. So let's go ahead and do that. So v for link in data.meta.links, and if we just go ahead and reload, then as you can see, we have the same data being iterated over, and here we need to make this dynamic. So each link has some properties, and we can look into those properties by dumping them over here. So we have the students data. Let's go ahead and just dump that, and let's unfold the target object. And inside meta, we have these links, and each link, as you can see, has a URL. It also has a label, and it also has this active property, which will be set based on the current page number. So yeah, let's go ahead and first display the label, and we are displaying that over here. So let's go ahead and display that. But instead of displaying it like this, if we go ahead and look into this label, then as you can see, there's some less than sign and the previous value. So this is actually HTML, and we need to render this as HTML. And we can do that in vue.js by calling this vhtml directive. So let's go ahead and pass that, and in this case it is going to be link dot label. So this is going to render the HTML data accordingly. And if we now go ahead and reload, then as you can see, the less than sign and the greater than sign are being rendered accordingly in here. And now let's go ahead and pass the classes accordingly. That is the active and inactive classes. And we have that as active. As you can see, we have this active property on each of our links. So we can use that to conditionally bind the classes. So we want to apply these classes if the link is active. So yeah, we can pass that link.active check in here, and we want to apply these classes if the link is inactive, and we can do that by passing the negation of link.active. And now as you can see, the page 2 is active currently, and that is being highlighted over here. And if we go ahead and navigate to page 1, then as you can see, this is active. So yeah, this is working properly. And we also want to apply some other attributes to this. As you can see, if we are on the first page, then we want to disable this previous button, and if we are on the last page, then we want to disable the next button. So yeah, let's go ahead and do that as well. And we can easily do that by passing conditional attributes over here. So we want to disable this if the link is active or if there's no link dot URL property. And if we go ahead and reload, then as you can see, since we are on the first page, then as you can see, the previous button and the first page is disabled, but the second page, the third page, and all the other pages are now clickable, but the first page and the previous button is disabled. And yeah, we can further debug this by looking into our pagination related data in here. So we have the meta, and here we have the links. So for the first page, as you can see, the URL is null and the active is false. So yeah, we are checking either any of these is false or null. So based on that, this will be disabled. So yeah, let's go ahead and further work on this. So now what we want to do is whenever the user clicks on this button, we want to programmatically navigate to that specific page. And here, when they click on this button, then we can just execute a function. And yeah, let's go ahead and pass a function in here. So I'm gonna name this as update page number because this is basically updating the page number. And along with this, we'll also pass the current link of this iteration because this link is gonna hold the information of the page number that the user wants to be redirected to. And if we go ahead and again debug this, then as you can see, we have, let's say, page number 4, and inside that we have this label of 4 and the URL. So as you can see, we have the student's URL with the value of page equal to 4. So we want to programmatically navigate to this specific page when the user clicks on this button, which is this button rendered in here. So yeah, along with this button, when we call that method, we also want to pass this link so that we can programmatically visit this specific page when they click on this button. So yeah, we have passed that link now, and we also want to prevent the default behavior. So I'll just pass that prevent modifier to this, and let's now go ahead and define this update page number over here. So we have the define prompts. Let's go ahead and define this update page number, and along with that we'll also get the link. And here what we want to do is we want to get the page number first. So what I will do is I'll just define a new variable called page number, and we want to split the URL by the equal to sign. So let's go ahead and pass that, and we want to grab the first index of that, and I'll log this value, whatever we get over here, to let you understand what's happening in here. And if we go ahead and reload, okay, we don't have any errors. And if I go ahead and let's say click on page 2, then as you can see, since we are splitting this link using this equal to sign, and we are grabbing whatever is on the first index of that, we will get the actual page number. And now we can actually visit that specific page using the router that we have discussed in the first section as well. So yeah, let's go ahead and now work on that. So yeah, let's go ahead and use the router helper of inertia, and we want to visit the slash students route, and we want to pass the page parameter along with this router, and the page in this case is going to be the page number that we have. And along with this, we'll also preserve the scrolling behavior, but first let's try to implement this. Let's see how this is gonna behave, and then we will fix some possible issues. So yeah, let's now go ahead and give this a try. And as soon as I click on page 2, then as you can see, we were navigated to the top of the page, and we are now redirected to the page number 2. And along with that, all the data is reflected on our page. As you can see, the results are being updated accordingly. That is, the range is being reflected in here, and the pages are being rendered accordingly. So we are currently on page 2. So the active status is being rendered here, and the previous link is also active. So yeah, everything is working fine. And if we go to the 10th page, then as you can see, the next page after the 10th is disabled because we don't have any links in here. So yeah, everything is working fine, but as you can see, we have this scrolling issue where if we click on the pagination link, then we are navigated to the top of the page. So yeah, we wanna prevent that, and we can do that by passing some additional parameters in here. So we wanna preserve the scroll behavior of this page. And if we now go ahead and reload and give this a try, then as you can see, the scrolling behavior is now preserved, and this gives a really smooth experience to the user. So yeah, this is really good experience. And one last thing that I want to fix here is, along with the loop that we are performing in here, I also want to pass a key to this, because whenever we are iterating over some items, we also need to pass the key. And in this case, I'll just use the index of this loop by passing the index in here, and we can pass that key to this by calling this key and then pass the index. So yeah, just wanted to make sure that we are passing a key to prevent some possible issues that we might face in the future, and everything is working fine, as you can see. So yeah, we have finally implemented server-side paginations, which are really efficient because these will only be loaded when the user clicks on these, and they are being grabbed from the server. So yeah, this is really performant, and we have implemented this from scratch using inertia.js. And I know that this video got really lengthy, but I hope that you learned some new stuff along the way. And in the next part, we'll be working on the create flow. So yeah, we'll work on that in the next video.